Yeah. Hello. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I think that it's really very important that we have a chance today to speak about the concrete issues, concrete projects, and the energy sector is really vital for any country, and especially for Ukraine, and especially during the war. I can tell you that that is, some coincidence in what was happened with the war. That we had a big plan of disconnection from Russia and Belarus energy systems, and it was our step towards European Union, and we scheduled this for 23rd of February, and at 12 o'clock at night we were disconnected, and in 4 hours the war started. And it was really, so we were planning this disconnection for 3-day isolated mode, and then we supposed to have another one in June, and our plan for synchronization was 2023. And it happened that when the war started and we were disconnected, we understand that we need to work in isolated mode more than 3 days. At that time, to be frank, we don't know how long we should be in this isolated mode. And that is really a big challenge for any energy system. So it takes us 21 days in isolation, and finally we were connected to Ensui. And my personal feeling about all these things, that that is really something, historical moment, that it was the same day, and it takes us only 21 days to be connected to European system, which gave us stability, which gave us safety, and we understand that that is the situation when we never come back to Russian grids and Belarusian grids. Of course, the war is coming, and we saw huge damages to energy system. The Russian shells our plants, they shells many generation facilities, they occupied and shell nuclear station, what was really incredible, and it was also very hard to believe that that could be in 21st century. And today the Zaporizhzhia NPP is still occupied by Russian, and that is the question of course damages, and we need to repair as quickly as we can, because a lot of millions of Ukrainians were left without electricity and gas. And that is also very challengeable thing that our people, the representative of energy sector, they really they did it. Just to give you some figures, I already mentioned it yesterday, that 5.6 million Ukrainians were connected back to electricity. It's almost one country like Finland. And that is really brave people who do this. Unfortunately, we also have losses on our, let's say, energy war with Russians. But today, of course, I want to speak about the future. I want to speak about the energy system of Ukraine, which we see in the future, and how we see this. Of course, I will show some picture. You can see here the post-war recovery development, and you can see what energy mix we see in the future. So there is 2032 and 2050, because in energy, of course, we need to take more long terms. what is important now, that even today, Ukrainian energy mix carbon neutral for something around 70% today. And of course, we understand that this is very important, and we want to move ahead to shift this energy system to be, let's say, 100% carbon neutral. And we saw how we did it, how we will do it in the future. Of course, the carbon-free sources of energy is very important, and so historically, one of the main generation in Ukraine is nuclear. Today and last year, it produced up to 60% of all electricity of the country. And that's why we want to develop nuclear. And very important that even now, even during the war, we signed in June a big contract with Westinghouse, and which have the plan to build 9 new units, nuclear units, and in the nearest future we are talking about 2 additional units in Khmelnytsky NPP, which is planned to build, and that is a new technology for Ukraine, which is AP1000. Of course, we need to do a lot of work to construct this, but we're sure that we can do this, and it gives us also understanding that this is like a long-term program with billions of dollars investment in Ukraine, and also due to the war we understand that we have no possibility to have any relations with the Russians in nuclear. It means that we need diverse the supply of nuclear fuel, which is also very important, and we also signed a number of contracts. So it's signed, the delegation was in Ukraine, in Khmelnytsky NPP, and we signed these contracts about the fuel production, and that is also very important, that it shows that investors could come to Ukraine even during the war, and to show that they are ready to support, they are ready to invest right now. What is also very important, that is, of course, development of renewables. Unfortunately, historically in Ukraine, due to the war, a lot of renewable generation already lost. Just to give you figures, today up to 90% of wind already damaged by Russian, or it's on occupied territory or absolutely destroyed. And almost 40% of solar also destroyed by Russians. But we see that this is future, and that is our future, and that is in our strategy. Even we really want to develop renewables, and here you could see some figures and some how we see and what we want to do with renewables. And in our strategy, we think we want that in 2032, the percentage of renewables in the energy mix would be not less than 25%, which is absolutely achievable. That was one of our goals. Just to give you figures, before the war, before this devastation from Russians, we already had the average 10% of renewables in our general energy system. Of course, it's hydro. Ukrainians also have the hydro generation, and here we have a number of projects which could be invested to increase the hydro generation in Ukraine. Today, we also understand that this could be done through already existing projects and some new projects. Just recently we signed a big project in hydro, Ukrainian hydro company, which supposed to build storages, and this is a big agreement with the World Bank, investment of World Bank, and this is about 200 megawatts of storage capacity on hydro plant. Of course, hydrogen. Hydrogen, that is the another very important part of the development of Ukrainian energy system. And we understand that we have this facility. We can build this renewables for hydrogen, and our goal is to export hydrogen to European countries, and we have these possibilities. We are already part of EU program on hydrogen, so Ukraine is one of the important partner for European Union in this field. Of course, we also have a big potential of biofuel production, and because Ukraine is an agriculture country, and so we have a number of projects, big projects, which could be realized with the participation of agriculture companies, and we already involved Naftogaz, that is a state company, in some of these big projects. Another very important issue is which allowed us to be very interesting market for investment to the energy sector, that is our synchronization, that's what I mentioned before. And it gives us possibility to export electricity in European countries. And that is really, we call it win-win situation, because from one side, it allows us to sell electricity to Europe and to earn money in Ukraine, because if you could just compare the prices in Ukrainian market or let's say our neighbors countries, so there is a big difference. But from the other side, we could help the European countries to short the demand on Russian resources, Russian gas. So we could supply electricity, and you could cut the usage of Russian gas. That is very important, and today we already have the infrastructure possibility to export 1,700 megawatts, but we really want to increase that dramatically. We see a big potential in our system, so we have really a profit it even during the war. We already started the export. Last week we started the export of first 100 megawatts, but before this we also have the one line from Ukraine to Poland, which is 210 megawatts, and also we have the facilities to export electricity to Moldova. Now we are exporting something around 200 megawatts, but we have the possibility to export 650. So, of course, we want to increase these lines. We want to increase it up to 6 megawatts, and it gives us possibility to export to Europe this amount of 6 gigawatts, exactly, yeah. Sorry, yeah, megawatts. Thank you. 6 gigawatts, yeah. And it gives us possibility to export this amount to Europe. What is also very important that we have a different time in Ukraine and in Europe. So we have a difference in 1 hour. It means that we could cover peak consumption in Ukraine, and then we could cover peak consumption in Europe. And that is really also very, very important. That gives really huge opportunities for export. Of course, we have a number of projects which is shown with the interconnectors, which could be realized to reach these 6 gigawatts of export facilities. Another issue which is also very important for us, that is the issue of oil and gas. So, of course, we see that we could increase the gas production in Ukraine. We could do this on already existing fields in different regions, in Poltava, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv. So we have these projects already in Naftogaz. Unfortunately, we really, before the war, we had a very good project in exploration of gas on Black Sea shelf. It was almost ready, but today, unfortunately, we have no chance to reach this sea or to start this exploration. But I really hope that after our victory, that would be really a very interesting project. It means that if we could achieve these goals, so we could cover our internal consumption of gas, and it gives us also possibility to start also exporting gas to European countries. It could be done. Of course, this is also connected to the pipes, it's connected to the lines, and there is a number of projects also with some projects with the support of EU also how to increase this possibility to transfer the or to use the pipes which is already exist, or to increase the possible routes. Another very important issue, and it's also connected to the war, this is the oil refinery, and unfortunately Russians destroy almost everything we had on refinery in Ukraine, but we understand that we had a number of opportunities to invest on this, and we need this, and of course we need to rebuild this or old factories, or to start new projects with the refinery. And one important issue which I really want to mention is that we do not want to rebuild our energy sector as it was before. We do not want to just make as it was. So we need to rebuild absolutely new approaches, new technologies in Ukrainian energy sector. We want to show that Ukraine could be a successful case for the best technologies existing in the world in the energy sector. We are thinking about, of course, energy efficiency. We understand that we need to reduce the consumption of gas, and we want to use maximum electricity for our cities. And the idea, what we have, that probably we could start with some of the pilot projects with one of the small cities, let's say, to show that the best energy technology could be used in one city as a pilot project. Due to the war, a lot of cities were destroyed by Russians, and for instance, that could be the case for energy companies to invest, to show the best technologies, to show the best opportunities, if this city could be like a pilot project for the future energy system of Ukraine, how it's supposed to look like. And I would be really very happy. What is also very important, I understand a lot of questions now about insurance and let's say practical questions of investment. Of course, I would like to ask you to invest now. And that is right, because it gives possibilities to be one of the first in new technologies. But from the other hand, what is very important now, we could work, if you're interested and you want to invest or start any kind of programs in energy sector. Today, we could work together on, let's say, documentation, on license, on any kind of permissions you need to be ready to invest next day after victory. So it means that now we could invest in in let's say, legal and side of licensing, whatever, all documentation, that you would have all necessary things to start investing next day. I mean, to start construction, to start real steps next day. So invest in Ukraine, and we are open, we are ready to make quick decisions to realize any project in the energy sphere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Mr. Gianni Operto, you are the President of the Swiss Federation of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. Let's build a sustainable energy Ukraine. How do you react to that? Can you help?
Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to make a small contribution here. The challenge being faced by all countries around the world is to make their energy system sustainable, independent, diversified, and consequently more secure. AEE Suisse is the Swiss umbrella organization for renewable energy and energy efficiency. We have 38 affiliated industry associations as members and around 35,000 companies, and growing these days. We're committed day in, day out to ensuring that operating conditions in Switzerland are structured in such a way that the transformation of our energy system can be realized quickly, economically, and socially acceptable manner. In this process, we share a number of challenges with the Ukraine. In the following, I shall briefly touch upon 3 criteria for what I had mentioned before, the sustainable, independent, diversified, and more secure energy systems. These are energy efficiency, renewable energy, as well as innovation. Energy efficiency. What is clear and applies globally, the best kilowatt hour is the one that is not used. Or with the words of the IEA, the International Energy Agency, energy efficiency is the first fuel and demand for it needs to grow. Major levers in this regard are mobility and the total stock of buildings in Switzerland as well as in the Ukraine. In Switzerland, buildings account for about 45% of energy consumption. We need to save as much of this energy as possible, and where this is not possible, to meet the remaining demand with renewable energy. Through the Buildings Program, the Swiss Confederation and the cantons are investing up to 600 million Swiss francs each year in incentives to encourage homeowners to renovate their properties, to make them more energy efficient, and to replace fossil fuel heating systems with renewable systems. The associated funding is to be greatly increased in the coming years, with the goal of raising the renovation rate to 3%, which is still modest, but that's the goal. In the relatively near future, our houses will need to change from being energy-guzzling buildings to what we call plus energy houses, that is to say, domestic power plants, and serve as charging stations for electromobility. Renewables. The expansion of renewable energy sources is essential if we are to achieve a sustainable, independent, diversified, and therefore secure energy supply. One-sided dependence on fossil energy sources and uranium is leading to a dead end, and this is also true for Switzerland. The only solution is to transition away from finite traditional fuels with problematic and unwelcome waste streams. At present, we are able to cover 30% of the total energy consumption in Switzerland with renewable energy sources. The trend, of course, is clearly upward. Thanks to a diverse energy mix, we have already reached a figure of around 70% in the case of electricity. In particular, hydroelectricity, accounting for more than 60%, and photovoltaics, which is currently experiencing substantial expansion, are making a major contribution. The process will be longer for the remaining energy needs. This is because the energy mix in Switzerland is still based on fossil and nuclear resources up to 75%, which we unfortunately also import from Russia, amongst other countries. To ensure that the urgently needed transformation of our energy system is successful, policy framework conditions need to be made more reliable and investment-friendly. In concrete terms, this means the proposition of a proven, risk-reducing financing model for new energy plants, while at the same time greatly simplifying permitting procedures. In addition to renewable energy production, digitization and energy storage will need to play a central part. Here we shall also be taking a range of approaches, from electric batteries to pumped storage power plants in the mountains, to energy conversion using power to X. When it comes to providing heating, we're also looking at heavily expanding renewable district heating networks and seasonal heat storage. Innovation. A key prerequisite for achieving ambitious goals in energy efficiency, as well as for expanding renewable energy sources, is innovative strength. As a historic location for innovation and education with internationally renowned universities, Switzerland is playing a leading role here and eager to offer expertise and support. Swiss companies, including many AEE Swiss members, are global leaders in research, development, and implementation of technologies to realize the transition away from fossil fuels and towards energy-efficient applications. An investment in energy efficiency, in renewable energy sources, and in innovative strength makes good business sense and is essential for a sustainable, independent, diversified, and thus secure energy future. For this, we need investment security as well as the right operating conditions, such as, e.g., the pricing of emissions. This should add economic pressure to maximize energy efficiency, to expand renewable energy, and parallel to this, to stimulate innovation. A reliable energy supply today is a fundamental prerequisite for a prosperous nation. The way to achieve this is by making use of indigenous sustainable resources. As AEE Swiss, we would be proud to support the Ukraine in its transformation of the energy system by making our expertise available with our broad network of contacts in the field of both business and science. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Operto. Thank you very much. Mr. Bertrand Picard, you are the chairman of the Solar Impulse Foundation. Can innovation contribute substantially to this incredible challenge Ukraine faces? Please.
Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. What is the problem with the economy today? We are coupling the GDP with the quantity of the production, the consumption, and the waste, which is bad for the environment and which is bad also for the economy, because we need a lot of production to have a minimum of result and profit. Thanks to the innovation that we have today, innovative solutions, we can couple the GDP with the quality of the efficiency. Because if we reduce the energy needed, the resources needed, we have a higher margin of profit that can reimburse the upfront investment. So basically today, what can the world do? The world can do it, but slowly, because we have to replace everything. What can Ukraine do? A lot. Because a reconstruction means that we start from much less, sometimes almost from nothing after the demolitions. And we can reconstruct directly with the efficiency, which means that we can very well imagine Ukraine, in terms of energy, with so much energy efficiency that renewable energies will be enough. When I speak of energy efficiency, you have to know that 3/4 of the energy produced in the world are lost because of the inefficiency of the systems that are consuming this energy. So it gives a lot of margin in order to match the needs with renewables, which is not only the sun and the wind, it's of course also the biomass, a lot for a country like Ukraine who has a lot of agricultural waste, of course hydroelectricity, but nobody is ever speaking about geothermia, which is a huge part. I'm not speaking just of geothermia in deep depth, but also superficial geothermia. So energy can be a huge factor of evolution for a country who has to rebuild itself. But not only. If we speak of reconstruction of buildings, we can have zero carbon cement. We can do the concrete with the demolition waste. We can insulate buildings to make them energy neutral. And we can use heat pumps rather than the old systems of heating to save 2/3 of the energy needed to heat or cool down a building. If we speak of the waste, there are systems that can turn the household waste into construction stones, into gravel, into furniture. In terms of water, there are systems to purify, to desalinate, to recycle the water. When we speak of mobility, the electric mobility is not only driving electric cars. It is using the batteries of the electric cars as individual storage of renewable energies and intermittent energies for the collectivity. So when you get back home with your electric car, you plug it to the grid in order to participate to the smart grid. In terms of agriculture, just a couple of examples with seeds that are made in such a way that they save water and they reduce the need for intrants. In the industry, you can have green hydrogen to make steel. You can produce stainless steel with 99% less water and 91% more profit. All these solutions exist, and they are all profitable already today. What do we need for them to come on the market? We need that the people know about these solutions, which is not the case because sometimes they're very innovative and people don't know them. We need the public procurements and the private procurements to put a much higher percentage on innovative solutions. Because today it is so much more easy to use what we know. And even the people who are building the constructions today are using what they know. We need them to use what they don't know yet, but what exists. Otherwise, we will never modernize anything. We need the government to give very clear visions on the ecological transition in all the sectors. Otherwise, we will not be able to use all these systems. We need also the public procurements to put the priority on the cost of 10 years or 15 years instead of just the purchase cost. Because usually it is cheaper to have something old and outdated and inefficient. Just when you buy it, it's cheaper, but it's much more expensive over the total time of ownership. So we see that the innovation is ready, it is profitable, and therefore the countries need to push them. If I say that they exist and they're profitable, it's because my foundation, the Solar Impulse Foundation, has selected 1,400 of them in the world, in all the fields I've been talking about. So the examples I gave you are solutions that exist today. They are not a big hope for the future. They're a big hope for today because they exist. They're all assessed by experts to be profitable and ecological. So if we speak about participation to the reconstruction of Ukraine, this is a gift I want to make to you. It's something that comes from Switzerland. It's something that comes from a non-for-profit foundation. All these solutions exist. Out of the 1,400, I'm sure that at least 400 to 500 of these solutions can be implemented straight away in Ukraine. And they can be implemented not by identifying problems and seeing how to solve the problems, because this is not enough. Very often we don't know about the problems enough. But it's implementable by taking the solutions and looking each time where we can put them. And this makes a fantastic granularity in absolutely all the fields. So this would be our participation, and we're here for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter. We are running half an hour late. I mean, I think we have to accept that now. We want to finish this conversation and open the next one. Apology to everybody. Mr. Schrader, you are... Mr. Pécan has to leave, and he apologizes. I think it's understood that the dialogue can continue with him anytime. Mr. Marco Schrader, you are the head of country and global program at SECO. Please, I give you the floor for a few minutes, a couple of minutes.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. I'll be short. It is a little bit difficult to imagine with these nice temperatures outside that next winter will come. But if one thing is for sure, is next winter will come. So in addition to what has been presented as the visionary statements, which we very much underline, we are currently occupied in thinking about the next winter. And you asked before, Mr. Moderator, what can we do over a year, over a few months, and over a couple of days? I'd get back to that, and I'd say in a couple of days we would probably need to see together what does need to be rehabilitated in order to get people through winter, and I'm thinking specifically on heating systems, district heating in particular. We heard before that district heating also in Switzerland is getting back on attraction. So what do we do on that? In a medium term, so from now until the cold period, how do we save on energy in district heating? That's something where we're also active in. We brought the Energy Efficiency Award to Ukraine, so municipalities to compete on saving energy, saving gas, first and foremost. And then in the long run, for the next 12 months, so after winter to get in, it's like, how do we replace the inefficient fossil-based sources of energy heat production, into renewable ones, and that could come later with the proposals which have just been made. So I think from now to next June, July, that's about some of the priorities in energy and getting people some nice warmth. Here in Switzerland, we're talking about reducing our temperature from 22 to 20 degrees, and I guess in Ukraine, the problems are way bigger, and I think there's something we could do to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Rita Stumpf, Head of International Infrastructure Project at SECO, you have the last word on this session, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Frieden. My name is Rita Stumpf, and I'm the head of the liaison office for international infrastructure projects at SECO. And together with my colleagues from Team Switzerland, we had the chance this morning to have an exchange both with the Ukraine government and with the private sector or representatives of the private sector from the Ukraine. And what I wrap up from this morning and what I heard from this afternoon, we realized that there are short-term needs in terms of mobility, in terms of infrastructure in the railway sector, for example, and you have long-term needs, for example, to develop a sustainable energy sector. What I learned this morning is how resilient Ukraine as a country and Ukraine as a people are, and how creative you are in fixing damaged infrastructure within hours. And you're creative and you're fast. From the Swiss side, what I would like to share and bring back to you is we can also be creative, and we can also be resilient in another way, but we have very often similar features. And we heard this afternoon that we would like to start pilot projects with you, we even with solutions like Bertrand Piccard just said. We need to have the courage to do it. I think we are all here, we want to be courageful and we would like to start. the next year, in July 2023, the next URC will be held in the UK, as I learned this morning, and I hope by then we can show to the audience what kind of pilot projects we have implemented by then and where we are about to go further with you. We need a platform for exchange, and we are open for this dialogue, and we have to start today with the follow-up of today's conference. And this is what we would like to offer to you, and we also like to learn from you. So that's our words. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schump. Thank you very much. Mr. Minister, thank you. All the best to you. All the